When you go to a stadium to watch your favourite team, it's about family, community and the connection we share. This is what Stadium Real Estate is about too. Hi, I'm Rachel Laurie and we believe every client deserves a front row seat on their real estate journey. At Stadium Real Estate, our people are the main event and we're 100% committed to helping you get a winning result. Family, community, connection. That's Stadium Real Estate. So get in touch with us today, stadiumrealestate.com.
Yes, welcome to another edition of Straight back for 2025 by popular demand. We brought in the big guns for our first episode back. Shane, our producer's with us again. How you going, Shane?
Good, Raj. Good to be here again.
Good to be back. David, the EO, we've got you in for an episode, guest appearance. How you going?
Yes, mate. I've been missing the last couple, so good to be back.
And we've brought in the big guns, I believe, to boost the ratings, Shane. So we've got Gade, former player, umpire, chair of compliance, wears many hats. How you going, Greg? Thanks for coming in.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. A pleasure to be here. And normally Adelaide Turf don't let me loose in public, so this is a new experience for me.
We'll use it as a bit of an educational tool, so
Yes.
hopefully it should be worth a listen.
He's much loved in Adelaide Turf circles.
That's not what you said before the show, but anyway, we'll come to that a little bit later, no doubt. But thought we might kick off with apologies. David was officially retired. You promised 3 episodes before Christmas, which never happened.
Yes, I did, mate. I had a chat to him. He's completely divorced himself from Adelaide Turf. We won't get any commentary from him this year with the presentation night. So he's just basically retired from cricket and moved on to soccer now with his following his lad. Yeah.
Fair enough. Oh well. It was good while it lasted.
It was.
We might swing into EO Corner, a few topical issues that the clubs want to discuss now. David, transfers, I guess, current rule on transfers in brief. How do they work? When can you get them?
Yep, I'm not sure we can do it in brief, but basically for the senior comp, people are coming from other clubs at the start of the season. You either lodge a transfer if you want to leave the club, or in the case of juniors, where you got a junior playing for Glenelg, for example, and he wants to play for Brighton, he does a season permit.
Yep.
Then it comes to the 31st of December, and that's the key date.
Right.
After the 31st of December, anyone transferred or season permitted across is not eligible to play finals.
Yep.
If they have played this season. If they haven't played this season, it's not an issue. But if they had played this season, they can play all the minor rounds but can't play finals.
Okay.
This also comes into where we have the fill-in mode early in the season when clubs are really struggling for numbers. They might put a fill-in player that they get. Yes, no problems using a fill-in once, but once you've used that fill-in, then, for example, Shane's a fill-in player for Jeps Cross for round 1, then you get Shane to register, and once he's registered, you can you could then put him in as a player and take out the fill-in name. If you don't do that, you can't do it now, that player is not eligible to play finals. We've always sent that notification out to clubs.
Yep.
It's easy for us in the background. Peter Bergen is very good. He gets all the information, so I can see the names in the background. Players on the Play Cricket app can't see it. It's just a series of stars. But in the background, we can see it. So then we know who's playing. If someone does start to do something a bit out of the ordinary, they'll get picked up short quickly.
Okay, and if a player hasn't played their fees, what's the situation there?
Basically, you only can refuse a clearance on financial reasons. And if someone's not paid their subs, the club can refuse it. And we all say, once you just don't refuse the permit, give the reason you're refusing it. For example, he owes $300, put your bank details in there, no one else sees it, and then I can move on to the other club and say, all right, he owes $300, the bank details are in there, paid. Once that's done, re-lodge the transfer, and away we go.
And he might argue if he's only played 1 or 2 games for the season, he still has to pay a full season's fees.
We support the club in general. Yes, we can always say, all right, he's played 1 or 2 games, but I'm sure if he's only played 1 or 2 games, a club might not charge the full fees. If they do, I can always have a chat to them, but normally it's pretty good.
Okay. And anything clubs can do to stop a transfer, or not really?
They can refuse it, but have to give some sort of grounds to refuse it. I know soccer clubs, for example, they are not keen to do a transfer. They're keen to do a season permit. The reason they do that is they want to keep that lad or that player on their books for next season if he wants to come back. If they approve the transfer, then that player can go to any other district premier club the following year. So I've got no issues with that. That's been happening for quite a few years at the moment.
And I could possibly direct this one to you, Greg, but finals coming up, what are the rules around finals permits? Can you get them?
No, it's pretty cut and dry these days. You've got to play 3 games in the 2-day competition to qualify, 5 games in the LO. If the competition loses a round or 2, then it's 25% of games played. So it's pretty clear cut these days. There's no conversation about applying for permits, and blokes only played 1 for whatever reason. It's pretty clear cut.
And this is our 4th year, I reckon. We're going to no finals, and clubs are. First year was very difficult.
Yeah.
After that, last year was pretty good. Clubs are now aware of what's happening, and we always say it's not up to the Adelaide turf to make sure you got 11 players qualified.
Yeah.
It's the club's duty to make sure they got 11 players qualified.
And the number of players in teams last year where they were only playing with 10 eligible has been gradually reduced, as I say, since it's been in operation.
So the clubs are pretty well aware that they should be aware of the qualification numbers now. Any reminders go out in the? Yeah,
well, yes, it will go out when it gets a bit closer. But it's basically 3 games or 25% of the games played. Yeah. You might have a game got washed out in a 2-day game, fully washed out, so it becomes 10 games. So you need to have at least 3 games or 25%, which is 2.5 games. Yep. So someone might have played half a game. If they played at a sub, that qualifies for 2.5 games.
Okay. And make sure you've paid your affiliation fees coming into finals as well, or you might get a tap on the shoulder.
Yes, it will. So that will be going on Wednesday.
Okay.
The last affiliation fee, and there'll be a date on the invoice when it has to be paid. Yep. And clubs are pretty good. Greg always thinks I give them some leniency, but I haven't in the last few years, Greg. But they normally pay. Yeah. It's no issues if they're playing finals. They normally pay. Some of the other clubs are a bit hard to might be difficult if they're not playing finals. Yeah.
Fantastic. So that's a bit of information for the clubs there through EO Corner. If you've got any topics that you want covered in this segment, feel free to email us marketing@turfcricket.com.au. We might take a quick break and come back and run through some results, because we really are leading into the business end of the season.
Now's the time to try something new. Cooper's Dry 3.5, a low-carb, mid-strength lager. Light and easy drinking with a crisp and refreshing finish. Go on, give it a try. Get it at your local and chuck it in your fridge.
Welcome back to Straight Back, proudly brought to you by the Arcabo Hotel, Stadium Real Estate and Platinum Print Group. I'm going to run through the results from round 7, starting with A1. And guys, a fantastic game. Goodwood versus Brighton. Goodwood getting over the top, 9 for 257, running down Brighton's 10 for 253, but only just. They're in a bit of strife there, Greg.
They certainly were. They were in strife early, then some good partnerships in the middle, and then a last wicket partnership of about 30, I think, ended up getting over the line, which just was Goodwood's good luck, because the week before Para Hills lost 4 for 1 and only needed 11, so they just find a way to win, Goodwood.
Yep, undefeated, David, and Andrew Lee, the veteran, who's played a lot of cricket, not a bad number 10 to be coming in that situation.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. And Hutchinson also made 81 from memory, so a good win. Like I said, they found a way to win.
And Grange burst into the 4 with an outright victory, 7 for 107 and 3 for 59 over Trinity, all out for 92 and 71. McDonald and Sayers amongst the wickets there.
Yeah, they lost 3 early wickets. They were chasing a small target. And then they got a bit of a partnership going, and they got over the runs. It's their issue. Grange is batting should not be an issue when you look at the scorecard, but they seem to struggle to make big scores.
Yep.
But I wouldn't want to play in a final.
No, exactly. Coming into some good form. Greg Old Scotch got over the top of the Ingle Farm, 10 for 226, over 168. Winter Irving with a strong performance as well, some handy runs and wickets.
Yeah, again, Old Scots were in trouble early, and Marsland and Winter Irving got them to over 200, and then except for the Ingle Farm opener, Mr. Sitter made about 70 or whatever it was, I can't remember now. They were always in trouble. Old Scots taking steady wickets and basically ended up beating them by about 60 odd runs.
Yep.
And that cements Old Scots around the 4 now, and they're one of the sides in the mix for the 4.
Yep. Extraordinary game. The next one, David. PAOC 10 for 251, defeated by Paraka 252. So that game, I believe, came down to the last ball with what must have been a very exciting finish.
Yes, it would have been. I was hoping it was live streamed. I would have watched it, but it wasn't. Yes, a very good finish, guys. I thought PAC were going for all money, but they kept fighting back, and because their guns, Sam Vivian and Angus Marshall, did not make too many runs, but they kept fighting, and last ball.
Yep. And
good win.
The leg spinner from PAC keeps getting wickets, another 5 there, so he's racking up a big tally.
And a former Unley player, played for Unley last year in the A2s, and he came to PAC this year. We wanted to play A1 cricket, so he's been a handy pickup.
Greg Parahills, too strong for Port Districts, 238, a solid score with their bowling attack. Port Districts all out for 211.
Although Port Districts at one stage for about 3 for 150 odd and then lost wickets late, which obviously didn't help the cause. But again, Parahills, steady as she goes.
Yep. And the final game in A1, Woodville South, 210, too strong for Hope Valley, 151. So a solid win for Woody South.
Yeah, Hope Valley is struggling, guys. I think they're clear bottom at the moment. I can't see them getting out of relegation zone. They've been disappointing. They've lost a couple of players from last year, a couple of senior players. Yeah, but so they've been disappointing. And Woodville South, with that win there, they gives themselves a rough chance of making the 4.
And swinging into A2, Adelaide Lions with a solid win over Golden Grove, 203, Golden Grove 61 and 142. So good win there for Adelaide Lions, Greg.
Yeah, they're going. Sorry, mate. I thought
I threw my voice then.
sorry, mate. Sorry.
He lost it and then he got it back.
Yeah. Actually, Adelaide Lions have had some pretty good results against some good sides this year, and they've won their last couple. So I think they're a real chance. Obviously, Ranella are the runaway favourites in that grade.
Yeah.
But, you know, Adelaide Lions, I think, are in there with a chance.
Okay.
Pregeet Kumasiri is doing very well with the bat and ball. He's taking wickets and runs, and he was a dominant force in that game.
Spock had a good win against Brahma Lodge, 220 over 140. Harrington 5 for 17. He made a duck with the bat, promoting himself to the top of the order, but bounced back with 5 for 17. But a good win by Spock there, guys.
Yeah, as captain, he can do that on the batting. He's Luke. We had him on early in the year from memory, and he would be close to 50 now, I reckon. So, but he still gets wickets and gets some runs. Yeah.
And he said Spock might be a team to watch in the back half of the season. You agree, Greg?
I'm not quite sure whether their batting depth is dependable enough for them to have a realistic chance of winning, but you never know. Cricket's a funny game.
Shane's boys, pretty disappointing. Jeps Cross against Flinders Park. Flinders Park 188 and 7, 143. Jeps rolled for 135 after, I believe, being 1 for 81. So a bit of a batting collapse there. Pretty disappointing performance.
Yes, very disappointing. Shane was spruiking him start of the season. They're the final favourites and all that, but they have been disappointing. I'm sure Shane would agree with that.
Yeah, it's not over yet.
And it's not over yet. 68. You're 2 games out of the 4, mate. You struggle to get there, I think. But yes. Jeps Cross, the disappointing year so far.
Good game between Marion and Walkerville. Greg Marion 218 and Walkerville made a reasonable fist of it 194, but collapsed towards the end. So
true, and they're 2 sides who are going to be around the mark as far as the fall is concerned. They've been a little bit up and down in their form, especially Walkerville. One week they're very good, one game, and the next game, they sort of fall off the radar a bit. But Marion have got a very solid side, so they'll always be competitive and always be around the mark.
And Ranella keeping up their top of the table form, 174, Paynham 39 and 9 for 66. So Petty and Aranga amongst the wickets, I think.
Yeah, the dominant force, like Greg said, goes. They haven't lost a game yet. I can't see anyone beating them in a 2-day game.
Okay.
So clear favourite for the grand final, I think.
And the final game, Unley far too strong for David's boys. Greg 4 for 269, Ethan Rice 109, Rechabites 9 for 91 and 9 for 151. So good win from Unley.
A very good win for Unley, and they needed that win. And unfortunately, a bit like Paynham, I think Woody Rechabites have fallen off the cliff, and probably unfortunately A3 bound.
No comment.
You're listening to The Straight Bat here on Adelaide Turf. We'll come back after the break and have a chat to our special guest.
Take your live sport entertainment to the next level at Sporties in the ATCA Hotel.
Well, we're back and we're better than ever, just in time for the footy with a brand new facelift, including new large LED screens, new outdoor area with booth seating, customised audio zones, brand new shuffleboard, brand new digital darts, all-day dining and so much more. Same love for live sport. Sporties is Adelaide's home of live sport.
Take your live sport entertainment to the next level at Sporties in the ATCA Hotel.
Yes, welcome back to Straight Bat, proudly brought to you by the ATCA Platinum Print Group and Stadium Real Estate. David, we've got a special guest in to have a chat to us, part of the furniture here at the ATCA, umpire, compliance, former player, but we're going to have a chat about all things cricket with Greg Gade. Greg, welcome. How are you going?
Welcome again.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
will welcome myself again. Yes.
Welcome you as a special guest. A lot of people obviously know you from your role as an umpire in compliance, but you were actually a player in the ATCA, and played quite a bit of cricket. So tell us a bit about your playing history in ATCA.
Yes, actually, I'm a 25-year player life member of ATCA. I started way back in 1968, played juniors for Woody North in the old defunct Woodville Districts competition, and basically played in the mornings and the afternoons and went out and filled in for Woody North C-grade side in the afternoons. Then I started playing more competitive cricket A-grade about the beginning of the 70s. In fact, there's a particular gentleman running around for Para Hills, Greg Quinn, who I actually played against way back then. I think he's the only one left that'd be running around from the 70s. I then played up until the club was defunct in 1994. We had 1 year's amalgamation with Ferredon Park. That didn't really work out. And then I moved into umpiring as such.
What kind of player were you? What was your forte? Batting, bowling?
Well, when I first started playing senior cricket, I was actually a bit of a tearaway quick. Well, I thought I was a bit of a tearaway quick. And then when the Woody North got promoted to A grade in 72-3, I was batting number 11, but I was one of these determined buggers that wouldn't give my wicket away, much to the annoyance of the bowler. So by the end of the year, I ended up opening, and then for the remainder of my 25 years or whatever, I was an opening batsman.
Oh, there you go.
As such, so.
What age did you retire at? Because obviously there's a lot of options for veterans cricket. The likes of Greg Quinn and Red Emerald still running around. You weren't tempted to make a comeback at any point, or when did you stop playing?
Well, actually, when Woody North folded in '94 and I took up umpiring, I actually coached Para Hills for a couple of years at the back end of the 90s there, and I actually played one game for them. So that was my last official game. But no, I never really had the desire to go back and play. And then after a while, after standing out there for all those years, the knees, the shoulder, and everything else went, and I wasn't going to go through that.
Fair enough.
Greg, you've been umpiring a fair while now. You were umpiring for a fair while. What makes a good umpire?
Well, I think the first thing is you want to do it for the right reasons. That's the first thing. The people who want to just go out there and do it for the money know that it's not right. Their heart's not in it really. And that's when things tend to happen in games. You need to have good communication skills. You obviously need to be abreast of the bylaws, because that's one thing you should never place yourself in a situation where you've got a captain who comes up to you and asks you and queries the bylaws and you don't know. You should never. I always prided myself when I was captain of Woody North that I only ever had a conversation with an umpire if I was confident that I knew what I was going to talk about. You shouldn't dwell on your errors. You need to learn by your mistakes and try not to do it again. Everyone's going to make a mistake as such. But, well, actually, we don't make mistakes. We make errors of judgment, I should say. And above all, you must be able to enjoy the experience. If you're not going to enjoy it when you walk off there and you haven't enjoyed it, well, then you're not doing it for the right reasons.
Well, you mentioned that for the right reasons. What was it that got you into it, and how do you think we can attract more umpires?
Well, I still had a love of cricket, and I was still young enough to, I believe, do it. So that was the main thing, and I enjoyed it. One of the reasons I played cricket, because the camaraderie, I just loved it. And after the game, having a beer after the game, talking to the people, you had your battles on the field of play, but once you walked off the field, it was all forgotten. And that was the part I really, in fact, sometimes I enjoyed the bit after the game than I did during the game. But basically, I still had a love for cricket, and I wanted to give something back.
Greg, you said umpires need to have a good read of the bylaws, and they know when a captain's asking them a question. What would you say to when a captain asks you a question and you're not sure of the bylaws? What should an umpire then do?
Well, an umpire, if he's with a colleague, he should draw on his colleague and ask him, for some guidance if he needs that. But you should never second guess, and don't be afraid to say to the captain, "Look, I'm not 100% certain. When we go into the tea break or the drinks breaks, I'll go and check it. I'll have a look at the book and I'll check it. But don't second guess. If you don't know, don't be afraid to admit it as such, because that's when the trouble starts. Is when you guesswork." And then you're proven to be incorrect, and that's when everything hits the fan.
And now you are involved in the bylaws and compliance, side of things. How do you enjoy that?
Oh, look, I love the compliance part of it. That's why I've been doing it for about 20 years now. I think myself personally, it's just an extension of me playing and umpiring, and it's without actually doing the physical part of it and having to stand out there in the middle in 40-degree heat. So it's just an extension of that to me. So I really enjoy doing it. And it's very amusing and interesting too, because some of the stories you do or don't hear, or some of the things scratch your head. You wonder whether they're actually the same two sides were out there at the playing in the same game. But no, I just enjoy doing it because it's kept me involved in cricket.
Yep.
What is the most frustrating thing about compliance, Greg?
The most frustrating thing about compliance is when you get a complaint or you get a report in, and there's no specifics there really. They just say, "He abused me," someone blah blah blah. You keep telling them that you need details. In order to act, you need details. You can't just go on speculation that, okay, David supposedly abused me, so therefore I'm going to find David guilty under the code of conduct because he abused me. But I need to know what he said. And sometimes then you go back and you ask them to explain, and they still don't grasp exactly what it is what you want, and it just becomes a frustrating exercise. And sometimes you find out really that what they deemed to be abuse was just a silly throwaway line which they took offence to, and really there's not too much in it. So it's the detail that's important. It's very important, the detail, so that you know specifically exactly what it is that the report's about. But that's the frustrating bit, is just sometimes having to go back and forth, trying to establish exactly what the story is.
And you mentioned a report may come in where there's two completely different sides to a story. How do you go about judging that when both sides are polar opposites?
Well, that's where your experience comes in. The fact that I played cricket for so long, the fact I myself was no particular angel when I played myself, the fact that I've umpired, I've been on both ends of it. So I've got a pretty good understanding of what I think has happened, and I can apply my logic, hopefully, to what I think was the right situation. And then you tend to find out that more often than not, you're correct, because then when you make the decision, if there is no appeal in that, then you know that, well, I've got this one pretty well right. I've actually guessed what did or didn't go on. And it is, in a way, a guess, because the way the reporting system is, a bit like the AFL, I'm not interviewing people. I'm not talking to them face to face. I'm just going basically off documents. So in a way, there is a bit of guesswork to it, but I look at it as being experienced guesswork.
Yeah. Just one quick one, David. Some umpires seem to be reluctant to place a report in the first place. Would you encourage if an umpire to place a report when he's in doubt whether to do so or not?
We've explained to the umpires on numerous occasions that you're not really reporting an individual, you're actually reporting an event.
Mm-hmm.
So all you are doing is telling the Adelaide Turf that such and such took place. It then becomes the domain of the Adelaide Turf to work out whether there's anything to the report, whether the person's innocent or guilty. So the umpire should never be afraid not to just document what's happened and report it. We'll decide eventually whether we're going to take it any further.
Yeah.
Some umpires just don't want to get involved, which is unfortunate. And as a consequence, I honestly believe that certain individuals who are, repeat offenders, they know and they can mark that umpire and they then know what they can get away with and they raise the level of their, let's just say, not playing within the rules because of the fact that they know that, hang on, David's here and I know I can get away with that. And a classic example was last year where we had a report against a captain and there was 2 umpires there and his argument was, well, the gentleman down the other end didn't report me and we basically got away with all this the game before, so it must be all right.
Yeah.
So therefore that umpire created a rod for his own back.
In regards to reporting, Greg, with captains, what advice would you give a captain when issues arise in the game, particularly in the lower grades?
Well, we've in the lower grades, they have to be able to. They have to obviously they set the standard. They set the standard both for their own team and the opposition team. They set the standard for their players when they're batting or bowling or when they're umpiring. They need to be aware of when a situation looks like it might get a little bit out of hand, and they need to be able to deal with it straight away. They also need to be able to deal with what the other captain is saying to them. If the other captain says, "Look, I'm not happy with the way that Fred over there is carrying on," you should not argue with him and say, "Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with what he's doing." You should respect what the captain has said. Maybe just have a quiet word to him. You don't, as I say, you don't have to agree with what the other captain's told you. But if you can jump on things early, or if there's a dispute over an umpiring decision of bowling, you just need to just tell, everyone's going to let a little bit of frustration out. You can't stop everything, but you need to know that there's a point that you can't let it go any further. So then you need to take the player away. So, and Adelaide Turf now have made it quite clear to the captains that we are going to hold you accountable for the actions of your players. And at least 4 LO captains this year have been subject to game bans because of the fact that they haven't controlled their players. And just one quick example was earlier this year, a captain of a particular side was involved in an umpiring disputing incident while he was batting. We disciplined the captain of the fielding side. So he knew exactly what the standard was expected by Adelaide Turf. Then come in one of the later rounds, he was involved in the complete opposite. He didn't learn and he suffered the consequences of Adelaide Turf then giving him games because he didn't learn from the first exercise, so as to speak.
And so when the clubs give you a statement or give a statement to Adelaide Turf, what do you specifically want them to address in those statements?
Well, I want them to make it as clear as possible. They need to name the individuals involved. They need to give me the specifics and exactly what went on according to their recollection. And it's always best, the same with umpires when they do it, that if you're going to report someone or lodge a complaint, that the earlier you can actually sort of take notes and write down exactly what happens, because when you leave it 2 or 3, 4 days later, everybody's memory and what did or didn't transpire changes and fluctuates. So that's the most important thing is to, and also it would be best if you actually had spoken to the captain of the opposition on the day and after the game and indicate to them that, look, I'm not happy with the behaviour, blah, I'm going to lodge a complaint and report. You don't need to get into the specifics or the basics with that individual, but at least let them know and be aware so they're not caught off guard. And then you get the automatic tit-for-tat defence. Well, you know, they were as bad as we were.
You just said tit-for-tat defence, Greg. We get a few of them.
Yeah.
What's your view when someone lodges a complaint against another team and the other team 3 days later comes back with, this is what happened?
Yeah.
How do you decipher which side you're going to take?
Well, I always think if there's something in something, 9 times out of 10, the first report you get is going to be the more accurate. When someone then counters that with the tit-for-tat defence, and their defence is basically saying, instead of trying to justify their actions or what the core of the report is, they start talking about, oh, they didn't give LBWs, they didn't give court behinds, blah, blah, blah. So when you start criticising the umpiring of the other side, you know darn well there must be some basis to this, because if you're getting frustrated 4 days later in print and telling me what they did or didn't do right, then you can bet your bottom dollar that you extended that frustration on that day, and the basis of the report it's got something in it.
And what is the process when you receive a report?
Well, basically, if it's an official report by an umpire, then we just basically get in contact with the club, say this report's been lodged, we require a statement as such. It's then given to the compliance committee, the inquiry panel. There's about 3 of us that do that at the moment. If it's a complaint, well, then it'll go through the executive officer. He will decide whether there's any merit in that. He'll then refer it to myself as the chair of the compliance, and then I'll decide as to whether it should go to a CEP. So it's not automatic in every instant, but there is a bit more of a vetting process now, and that's why we encourage teams now to get it in as quickly as possible.
Yep.
Can you explain the system when the clubs had 3 or more players that get reported?
Well, quite a while now, I think probably going back 10 or 12 years now, we changed the system when we added penalty points for players who got suspended, so it affects the team. We now have got the situation now of 3 or more players in a season are reported from an individual club, then that means all teams can be affected. Up to 5 points can be allocated because you've got 3 or more players reported. So we can actually, if you've got, say, if you just take Goodwood, who have got about 6 teams, and it could be the situation where we say, okay, because of the nature of the offences and the game's got, every single team is going to be affected and is going to lose 2 points.
They got 8 teams.
8.
Could this all happen in one game?
Yes, it can. It's just 3 players. Doesn't matter whether it's spread over the whole season or happens in one game, which has happened previously. Where, whoops, I was told not to tap the desk. Where it can happen. So yes, it can happen in one game.
So this rule was brought in basically. Clubs, there were people playing in the lower grades that were out of hand, didn't worry the club. So now if those players are stepping out of line all the time, the club has to do something, otherwise whole club suffers, gets a penalty. So I think it sort of worked.
Yes.
We haven't applied it too often, but yeah.
So, Greg, in your time as chairman of compliance, would you say player behaviour's got worse, better, or stayed the same? Well, that's probably a hard question to answer, but
it has actually stayed the same. It really hasn't got better. And I won't go into my own reasons why I think some of that's what it's got to do with, but the fact, no, it hasn't, although it may well be that clubs are now more inclined to report as such, because a number of times where you get a report and you go back to the club because their players reported and they'll say, oh, but this happens every week, whatever. And I say, well, that's not a defence. It's not a, if you let it go and you ignore it, that's your issue, that's your problem, not ours. So I think it's probably what's happening on the field is not an increase in this sort of conduct. It's just that more people are now reporting it to the Adelaide Turf.
And I guess Frogbox has been helpful in a lot of regards with regards to reporting.
Frogbox does make life easier for the higher grades, yes.
Absolutely.
Also, it makes it difficult on some umpires, but they actually don't report a play, and it's obvious their report should have been taking place.
Yeah.
We then, do address the umpires. That has to happen.
Yeah.
Quite a few lower grade clubs playing in the LOs have also got frog box. So more frog boxes we get is going to make our life much easier.
Yeah, and I guess it sounds like the captains play a crucial role, lower grades and higher grades, in controlling their team and setting the standard of expectation.
Yes, they do, and that's clubs have got to realise that one of the criteria, I think, for when you pick a captain, they must be, player control or player management is critical. When you select a captain, don't just pick Fred because Fred's the best batter or whatever else. He's got to be able to have player management.
Yep. Very interesting. Hopefully we can feed some of that back to the club, Shane, and we'll get less reports next year. We can only hope.
Definitely, yes. We'll definitely feed this back to the clubs, and hopefully they can have a listen to what Greg's kind of just said there, because I think there's a bit in it, particularly in the LO grades and around the captaincy. And I know Greg would definitely look into, when he's finding a verdict, if the captain's actually made a bit of an effort to control his players. It definitely goes a long way. So
it does.
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, David, we might rip Greg through the mad minute, and we'll fire a few quick fires at you, Greg, and see what you've got for us. So, your favourite cricketing memory?
When I was captain, when we won the premiership in 88-89, we beat Unley in the A2 grand final at Walkerville, and the reason that was because the year before, the best decision Adelaide 2 have ever made was that they did the promotion and relegation system, but they changed the system the year before that if you finish minor premiers, you got automatic promotion.
Yeah.
And the year before, we finished minor premiers in A3, even though we lost the grand final. So it meant we went up to A2 and then to 1. So that's my best memory.
Yep.
Favourite cricketer?
Ian Chappell.
Favourite sports person?
Dawn Fraser. Same ilk.
Yep.
Best afternoon tea?
This is in relation to a club that no longer exists called Ferryden Park. No one has ever or will ever come close to the spreads and the afternoon tea that they used to put on. It was an absolute smorgasbord.
What was the name? Do you remember? Gwendolyn
Schnauf.
Yep.
Oh, what was so good about it?
It just had everything. It was basically
good
entrees, main meals,
okay.
and the desserts at the end, the cream cakes and the whatever. And it was just...
No, 100% agree with that.
Probably would have been hard to get in the field after that, I imagine. But
very hard.
Drink of choice?
Melbourne Bitter.
Best umpire?
I'll rate 2 here, going back, a gentleman by the name of Dean Groves and a gentleman by the name of Wayne Singh. They were both exceptional umpires.
Okay. One thing that could improve the ATCA, in your opinion?
Again, talking about umpires, attracting more umpires, but getting the age demographic a lot better, a lot younger. We need a lot more umpires, younger umpires to get into it.
Yep.
A1 Premier for this year?
I would say the obvious one is Goodwood, but their luck's got to run out one of these days. And I'll say one of the clubs who obviously are a fan of mine, I'll probably say Grange there.
Okay. And starting tomorrow, Australia versus Sri Lanka Test Series, who wins?
Subject to Travis Head, I'd say 1-1.
Okay.
Would you open with Travis Head?
Yes, I would. I wouldn't have any hesitation.
Okay.
Because I wouldn't want to bat him at 5 or 6 with the Sri Lankan spinners.
Yeah.
Your thoughts, David, on some raging turners in Sri Lanka? You're confident Australia can get over the line?
I'm confident. Depends on the track. If they get we lose the toss and it's a good batting wicket for 2 days and then it breaks up, that could be an issue for Australia. But we should get over that, over the line. Although we did lose last year, last time in Sri Lanka, I reckon we lost the series from memory.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, so it's going to be an interesting series starting tomorrow afternoon. So looking forward to that. We might just preview this week's round of games. So we've got round 8 in the A1 kicking off, Brighton hosting Paraka. Interesting game, Greg. Your thoughts?
Well, basically, because of the status of the 4 at the moment and the way it's so tight between sides between 4 and 8, it's a critical game for Brighton, who, after their very good start, have been very, very disappointing. Paraka are very consistent. They've got a pretty good batting side and bowling side. I expect Paraka to win that.
David?
Yeah, same again. I think Paraka will win. Brighton started off well. Their bowling is not their strength. Batting is their strength. But Paraka have got some really good quick bowlers with Cooper Thompson and Mitch Thomas. So
Paraka, yep.
Yeah, I reckon Brighton at home
Okay.
get up here, and then that's just going to create a massive logjam in that ladder on the run home there.
I thought you were saying it's going to create massive interest in our next podcast when we have two Brighton guests in.
Well, that's right, yes. Hopefully they're happy.
Okay, yeah, I better go for Brighton then as well in the interest of ratings. Hope Valley versus Ingle Farm, Greg.
This is Hope Valley's last chance to avoid relegation. And it's also a pretty critical game for Ingle Farm too, who are finding themselves down in the race for, for relegation. So, but I would think on form, and unless Mr. Wilkins actually makes some runs and takes some wickets, he's had a very disappointing year this year, and he's a very good cricketer. I'd have to go for Ingle Farm.
Yeah, I think Ingle Farm easily.
Yeah, we'll go Ingle Farm. That can, that might be able to put them a space above the relegation there. Trinity got a tough game coming up as well. So, massive game for both those clubs.
Yep, Ingle Farm as well. Para Hills hosting Woody South.
I would have to go for Para Hills, but Woody South are my smoky for the 4 with their run home. If they actually can win this game, I think they're pretty well positioned to actually sneak into the 4. So it's a pretty critical game from their perspective.
Yeah, I think Para Hill is a good, even team batting and bowling. Should be too strong for Woodward. Woodward have got some guns there that Takos, I think, is leading the batting from memory. He could go off, but I reckon Para Hills are very hard to beat at home.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of Woodville South last game. I haven't seen too much before, but it was pretty impressive what I saw. A good mix of a bit of youth and experience, and the bowling attack looked quite good. So I might go Woody South in an upset here.
Ooh, okay, no, Para Hills for me. Trinity, can they cause an upset against PAC?
I wouldn't think it would be an upset if they did. That's Trinity, I think. They're just the unknown. You flip a coin on this one, and it probably lands Prince Alfred.
Yeah, I think Prince Alfred should win that. Any chance of making the 4, they need to win this one.
Yep.
Yeah, last roll of the dice of Prince Alfred, so I'll go Prince Alfred. But yeah, if Trinity can get up here and keep that relegation fight alive.
Yep, I'm with Trinity as well. Goodwood away to Port Districts.
This is the upset of the round. Port Districts have not been going too bad, actually. They're a pretty solid side, actually. And Goodwood's luck has got to run out eventually.
Okay.
Well, Port District's only won 2 games, Greg, so I'm not sure. I think Goodwood are the dominant team in the comp. I reckon they'll win easy.
Yeah, I think Goodwood get up there.
Yeah, Goodwood finding a way to win, so I think they'll get that one. And arguably the match of the round here, Old Scotch versus Grange, 4th versus 5th, so a crucial game.
Draw.
Yeah, you can't go past Grange, guys. They've got a very good batting lineup, and their bowling lineup is also very good. But they keep disappointing with the bat. They should be making far more runs. If Uppensteins get going, I think they might have too much for Old Scotch. But if Hamish Winter Ewing gets going, he could be the difference as well. But I'll go close to say a draw myself, but I have to go for a Grange there.
Okay, Shane?
Yeah, I picked Grange at the start of the year for the flag, and I think they're making their run now, so I think they'll continue on with their good form.
Okay, I'll go for Old Scotch at home in what will be a cracking game. Swinging over to A2, Paynham hosting Flinders Park. Greg?
In 2 words, Flinders Park.
Flinders Park, way too strong, guys. Paynham are really struggling along with Woody Reckerboats. They're bound for A3, like Greg said. So Flinders Park easy.
Yeah, Flinders Park, pretty impressive last week, having watched them a little bit. I must say as well, the best dressed team in Adelaide Turf. I think Tom's got them pretty well sorted out there at the Sports Centre, but their warm-up kit and their kits are immaculate. So, we'll go Flinders Park. Yep,
agreed. Marion hosting Unley, 3rd versus 2nd, big game.
Should be a very good game, but Marion at home.
Unley very much up and down, guys. They got some guns in there in Charlie Hood and I can't think of the name
Ethan
of the
Rice
bowler.
coming off
Ethan
100.
Rice,
Yeah.
Ethan Rice. At Marion, they're hard to beat, but I'm going to stick up for Warren Ainscough and go for Unley to beat Marion and probably get the second spot.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the winner of this almost books in that spot in the finals with a few games to go after this. So, yeah, I think I'll go for Marion at home.
I'm going with Unley there. Spock against the hapless Woodville Recabites at the moment.
I think Luke would slash his wrists if they lost this one.
Yeah, I think Recabites have got a past players' day either this week or next week. When we normally have a past players' day, we always lose. I think that will keep going, and Spock should be too strong for Recabites.
Yeah, Spock to continue on their form after they knocked Jeppies off an outright victory a couple of games ago. And like Luke said, he thought they'd go on a bit of a run post-Christmas. So he's certainly living up to that. So, yeah, we'll go for Spock on that one too.
Yeah, I think so. Spock, Ranella, top of the table, taking on Brum Lodge.
Basically, it's Ranella versus Benjamin Pye. Depends on whether he makes any runs or not, but Ranella quite easy.
Yeah, I think so, but Ranella as well.
I do, obviously, Ranella are the best team in it, and I think the best bowling team in Adelaide Turf, all of Adelaide Turf. They're not making heaps of runs. There is an upset there. I can see them losing one, whether it's this one. Brum Lodge do have a couple of batters that are making some runs. They've had a couple of guys that have made some big scores, a couple of veterans as well. I don't know if this is the upset, but we'll pick Ranella, but I wouldn't be surprised if, there is an upset eventually.
Okay, fair enough. Ranella for me as well. Walkerville hosting Adelaide Lions.
Again, this is a very even game. Walkerville at home, but Adelaide Lions are, I think, a couple of good wins their last couple, so I'll go for them again.
No, I'll go for Walkerville. I think the loser out of this game probably doesn't make the four. So the winner will probably have a good chance of making the four. But I'll go with Walkerville.
Yeah, if the Lions win this one, it kind of sort of gets that top four shaping a little bit more. If Walkerville can get up, it leaves it really open. So I'll go for Walkerville at home.
Okay, I'll go for Lions there in the final game. Golden Grove versus Jeps Cross.
Do we have to?
Depends if you want to lift home or not.
Jeps Cross.
Jeff Cross have been very disappointing, guys, and Shane would agree with me here. Golden Grove have got some guns there. Playing at Golden Grove, I'm going to go for Golden Grove to win.
Yeah, a bit of availability has killed Jeffies this year. It's hasn't been a great year for that. But yeah, look, I'll always pick Jeps.
Yeah, I think Jeps Cross can bounce back into the winners list as well. And finally, A3, Goodwood versus Fulham, Greg.
It's a pretty even contest, actually. Probably Goodwood.
I think Fulham will be too strong, guys. Goodwood are third and Fulham are fifth, but they've got a very good team. So I say Jack Lacoste has played there a couple of games ago. Back maybe is playing again. He was a very good cricketer. But I'll go for Fulham to defeat Goodwood.
Wow, yeah, if they got Jack Lacocious playing for him, then we'll get him. I actually saw him bowling in the back of the nets at the Adelaide Oval during the Test match, and he looked quite decent. So, but yeah, we'll go for Fulham to get up there.
Okay, I'm going for Goodwood there. Hectorville versus Para Hills.
Hectorville are top, but I'm not sure whether they've been totally convincing in their last few games. Para Hills haven't got a bad side, but have been incredibly disappointing. I'll go for the upset here, Para Hills.
Okay. I think Hectorville at home should be too strong.
Yeah, get it Hectorville to stay on top of the ladder.
Yeah, agreed. Modbury versus Ranella.
Modbury are very inconsistent too. I'll go for them because they're playing home.
Yeah, I think any chance of making the four, they need to win this one, so I'll go for Modbury.
Yeah, look, I love seeing Modbury up and about again. They're obviously struggling for a few years, so it's great to see them having a few wins in the A3s this year. So, look, I'll go for Modbury in this one.
Yeah, agreed. Ingle Farm hosting Rocks.
I think Ingle Farm are the A3 premiers this year, so they'll win.
Yes, I think Ingle Farm should be far too strong. We might have a very interesting ladder coming up if Ingle Farm get relegated from A1 and Ingle Farm in A3 gets gets promoted.
That's putting the cart before the horse there, David.
Yeah, look, I'll go for Ross Trevor in that one. I like picking the A grade teams over the B grade.
Okay, Ingle Farm for me. Pulteney versus Old Ignatians.
Probably Old Ignatians, although their batting is very disappointing. I think they average about 150 most games. They tend to make a few early and then they do fall away dramatically at the back end of the innings, but I think they should be too good for Pulteney.
Yep, Pulteney first them up in the 2-day comp in A3, when we asked if they want to come up, they said yes, we'd love to come up. So admire them for that, but they're struggling. I think Old Ignatians should be too strong.
Yeah, I think Old Ignatians get up there and put a bit of a gap in that top 4. So Old Ignatians.
Yep, agreed. And Paraka looking for their first win against Shock, Greg.
I would say that if Shocker have any chance of making the 4 in A3, they have to win this game and win it convincingly, if not outright.
Yeah, I think Shock would be too strong.
Yeah, Shock for me there.
Excellent. Shock for me as well. That is our preview of round 8. And Shane, anything exciting coming up in straight back over the next few weeks that you can bring our listeners up to date with?
Yeah, look, hope to have a Brighton on next week, so have a past player and a current player on the show, which would be great. Yeah, looking on getting a player from the Adelaide Lions as well, so we'll just keep punching them out.
Exciting things in store.
Guys, there's a T20 round of 16s finals going on right now, so hop on the Play Cricket app and see who's live streaming and go and watch a good game.
And in memory of Warren Ainscough, I like to say, why do melons like weddings? They can't elope.
Not bad, Greg, not bad. We might get you writing the jokes every week if that's all right. Going forward, we can call it Greg's joke. That takes us out for Straight Bat. We'll be back with another edition next week. Stay tuned for that. Thanks, Greg, for coming in and giving us some of your wisdom around compliance and umpiring and so forth.
No worries, enjoyed it.
Thanks, David. Thanks, Shane. We'll be back in a week's time. See you then on Straight